Wow. And what a week. In fact, one of my colleagues sent to me and another colleague a simple text that just said, wow. That's all he said. And we got together and were thinking about that and said, is that good or is that bad? He didn't say, whoa. He said, wow. But is that good? Is that bad? One never knows. I'm Stan Houston. The program is Welcome to the Master Entrepreneur. And some people are now saying to me, well, who is the Master Entrepreneur all about and who's it for? Well, it's about life, it's about learning, it's about surviving, and it's about leadership. And now, in this day and age, the Master Entrepreneur program is for everybody who wants to do something that matters, makes a difference, and survives, and maybe even thrives. If that describes you, you are in the right place and the right program. Today, we're going to be talking about, hey, good morning, teacher, your Zoom stuff ZUCKS. That's right. You need to know that the conference, the call, the presentation, the classroom that you are involved in through the Zoom experience probably ZUCKS. It's boring, it's bad, and we're going to help you change all of that. And then I'm going to have some fun. We're going to talk about a Patron Saint for dogs. Do you know that there's a lot you can learn about learning about a patron saint for dogs? There really is such a person, and it really has a profound meaning for you and for me in this pandemic age, and as we press on to try and make it with the wow before us and behind us and above us and beyond us and almost inside of us. Wow, how do we live well in the wow age? I'm Stan Houston. Program begins right now. Well, thank you very much for your time. We're going to be here for about 12 to 15 minutes. Maybe it'll get a little bit longer, but not much. And we've made it hopefully interesting and fun and helpful and useful. And hopefully we can do just that. Yes, they're talking about what about going back to school, teaching online, teaching over the internet. Are we going to continue to mask up and have more of these meetings, these Zoom meetings around the world where we don't ever talk to anybody, we don't ever worship with anybody, we don't ever have any human contact with anybody? All we do is Zoom into one another via the internet and via that microphone and via that computer. Well, the problem is the way the Zoom stuff is being done, Zoom ZUCKS, and we're going to try and help you take care of that. I've been saying for many years that every business and all business is show business, and that's true more than ever. Unless you can learn some of the things that I, as a 40-year broadcaster, or anybody who's had performance, speaking, singing, performing, broadcasting training, if you haven't had any of those training or skill experiences, there's a very good chance that you're going to make, in some cases, a fool of yourself. You're not going to come across as powerfully as you wish, and as a result, your persuasion, your leadership, and your connection abilities are going to be really, wow, they're bad whenever you try and do a Zoom thing. So what we're going to do is we are creating right now a course just for you. And what it's called is Good Morning Teacher, or it could be Good Morning Professor, or it could be Good Morning Pastor, or it could be Good Morning Presenter, Good Morning Chief, Good Morning Leader. You are on the radio. It's a coaching experience for those who teach, lead, and present on Zoom and online. And we're going to help you be ready for all of the Zooming you might have to do, for all of the online internet teaching you have to do if you don't know how to present online. A little over 80, 90 years ago, a man named, you know who it is, Dale Carnegie said, if you can't speak in public, you'll never be successful in business. And the new mantra, which we present and we begin to help you with, if you cannot present and perform online, on video, on the radio, on internet communication, you are not going to do well. So that's coming up. And I want you to think about that right now as to how that experience might be helpful and useful for you, because we can help you do that. I was talking to a woman today, and she just simply said this to me, successful entrepreneur. She said, I hate it. I usually like to go to church, and I kind of enjoy it. But let me tell you, the dynamic pastor we used to have is now gone, and she's a nice lady who's now, but you know, just seeing her on the TV there, it doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work for me. And I don't have to embarrass myself by getting up from the first or second or third row and leaving. I just walk away. And of course, because of that, true participation is down in all organizations and all churches, and giving is way down. And what they have discovered is that during this time that the school children who had the opportunity to get some of the stuff online, over half of them never logged in. They didn't even try. They just went on their way. So how do we do it differently? We believe we have some of those answers, and part of it relies on the fact that you must be on the radio, you must be a performer, you must be a connector, you must know how to do the online teaching, preaching, presenting, connecting performance, and we can help you do just that. We may make you go from being a Zoom Zuck to a Zoom star. Wouldn't that be nice? Hey, this is Stan Houston. The program is called The Master Entrepreneur, the Powerful, Effective Master Entrepreneur. And it's not just about business and performing there. It's not just about entrepreneurialism. I'm telling everybody now, the kind of life or career that is before you, once we get through the pandemic, your life and your business will change. And the things that you thought you could do or would do or should do are going to have to be done very differently, if you can even do them at all. And we want you to be prepared, to be at your best, and actually be able to say what we oftentimes say here: it was a bib. There was a blessing in the bad. And in the bad things, and they're certainly bad, could we actually take them and find a way to use them in such a way that they become a future blessing for ourselves and for our children and for others? Because that's what you're supposed to do in life. Did you know that? You are here to bless others. Anybody asks you, what is your purpose in life? It's that. You are here. That's why God put you here, to bless others. That's it. That's the deal. And the further you stray away from that deal, the further you go away from that understanding, the more trouble you will have. I guarantee it. Hey, again, I'm Stan Houston. Please reach out to me at stanhouston@gmail.com, stanhouston@gmail.com. We're here to help you with all kinds of things in your life, in your business, and in your radio program, in your church and ministry and worship. We have loads of experience and even a little bit of wisdom in how we can help you do that. Once again, my name is Stan, the spokesman. I can help you. stanhouston@gmail.com. stanhouston@gmail.com. Now we're going to talk about dogs and patron saints. That's coming up. We'll be right back. Of course, most of you have never heard, and me, not having been raised within the strong Catholic tradition, I had never heard of him at all. But perhaps those of you who are somewhat into the tradition of the Festival of Saints and the Day of Saints, perhaps you've heard of him. Saint Roche, R-O-C-H. Now look it up, Saint Roche. And a gentleman named Philip Kozlowski, in one of the periodicals that is really very helpful and useful and fun. That's right. Did you hear the words I used? It's an internet publication that is helpful, useful, and fun. And in the meantime, you gain some information, but it's helpful, useful, and fun. All of you know that I love dogs, and Jackson the Wonder Dog continues to press on. However, I got news from a good friend and colleague who just simply said this. All he said was, George is gone. And of course, George was their dog of many years, and George is now gone. And of course, we're all very, very sad, missing George. And those of you who know dogs, love dogs, and have dogs, and of course, you probably have put a few down, you know the feeling. What he said is, why Saint Roche is a powerful patron against plagues, and why is Saint Roche the patron saint of dogs? Now, I didn't even know there was a patron saint of dogs. But here's what my friend Philip says. Saint Roche is the patron saint of dogs because a dog would lick his sores and bring him bread when he was suffering from the plague pandemic. Dogs have been known as man's best friend for centuries, and even many saints were aided by dogs when they were in need. For example, there is a popular story from the life of Saint Roche that has since earned him the title Patron Saint of Dogs. In the 14th century, Saint Roche, and there's a long story about him being a very successful and powerful and rich young man, gave it all up and devoted himself to helping the sick who were suffering from the plague. Now that was the Black Plague. That was the pandemic that makes the one we are going through, unfortunately, look like nothing at all. Thousands, millions of people died. He visited many Italian homes and eventually contracted the same disease that he was battling. It goes on to say, afraid that he would infect others, Saint Roche isolated himself from others by going into self-quarantine in the forest. There he was slowly dying, but here's the story. But God provided for him by sending him a dog. Now, it turns out that in the story, this was the hunting dog of a rich and powerful gentleman who owned these woods. The dog would lick his sores and bring him bread each day that he took from his master's table. And that is why Saint Roche is often depicted in paintings with a dog. And then as the story goes on, after a certain time had passed, Saint Roche was healed of his ailments and then continued his ministry of curing the sick. And the plague continues. However, he was known, and a story was about that many who were suffering from the plague were healed by the presence of the dog patron saint, Saint Roche himself. His very prayers, his very presence, his dog friend, his ability to pronounce a blessing healed many. And so he became known as a powerful patron against plagues. The saint is known as the patron saint of dogs and the patron saint against plagues. I never knew that. In fact, I find out, and my wife and I then went to all of the sources and found that it is an incredible story, and there are many more details which I'm sure you would find fascinating and interesting. You see, that's one of the nice things about being on the radio. You actually are so interested in other things that you become more interesting, and the more interesting you become, the more successful you will become. By the way, I'm going to do a video soon, and it's called this: You can save $60,000 by not going to college and reading these $6 worth of books. And I honestly believe that. My wife Karen and I went to the thrift shop and we got a deal, and we found 8 books for $6. And as I went through them, I said, if a man or a woman or a young person would study these books for a year, they would know far more and be far better educated than the person who spent $60,000 to go to college. I honestly believe that. In fact, I more than believe it. I know it's to be true. But right now, as one of my friends said, nice story, Stan, but what's the wisdom in that? I don't get it. Nice story. What's the wisdom in that? Here's where it's at. Did you believe my story? Did you believe that at all? Do you think that story about the dogs and the healing of the diseases, that it could be true? Or are you such a rationalist, such a down-to-earth person, you say, no, that couldn't happen. Nice story, nice legend, but it's not true. It's not real. Now that says something about you and who you are and your attitudes toward life, your possibilities, your visionary and strategic and existential possibilities to think outside the box, to use the phrase, to have wow experiences. As my friend said, Stan, I believe that could be true. She's Italian. She loved that story. She loves dogs. She said, I believe that could have happened. That could be true. I don't know. I certainly find it unusual, but I believe that could be true. Now that's why she has been very successful all her life. She believes that things could be, not what they just seem to be, but what else could be. That there are possibilities, there are miracles, there are things you can't understand. There's optimism and joy and hope in the midst of even pandemics and perilous times. And so that's the story and why I tell it. I don't know if it's true. Let me tell you this. It's true for me. I would like to have that kind of power. I would like to believe that God could do and would do such things. I would like to believe that I could bless others. That Jackson, the little wonder dog, has got more humanness to him than sometimes I can even begin to understand. Sometimes I see glimpses of it. I see how He seems to know when I'm sad or not doing well. He seems to know. So there we are, my friends. I'm done. 20 minutes on the Wednesday evening. Thank you for giving me a little extra time. But remember, the saint who's the patron saint of dogs, the saint who actually healed thousands of people in the plagues and pandemic of his time, the fact that maybe there's more to life than we can ever experience. No, and I always say, if it's important, it probably cannot be seen. If it's important, it probably cannot be seen. But let's be very practical. You've got a presentation to make, you've got a Zoom conference to make, and we're going to help you do it and do it well. The heavenly things and the earthly things, the eternal things and the practical things, all of that is important because you're an entrepreneur and you're called to create, to connect, to fix, and you know what? The whole civilization depends on you. I'm Stan Houston for whatever we're doing right now, and we wish you the best and blessings, and bye for now.